and then we will come back for Gurbani Kirtan with Bible Deep Sing to conclude today. We have Sebastian, Professor John Sebastian here. He's the VP in of Mission and Ministry here at Loyola Marymount University. And I really enjoyed being a part of a Companions in Mission program that he has been running with us. We get to experience the Jesuit contemplative exercises, the spiritual exercises where they practice contemplation and meditation. And I also welcome Nirinjan Singh Khalsa. He's the Executive Director of the California Sikh Council here. Sushama Parekh, she works at the Jain, she teaches classes at the Jain Center, as well as Claremont School of Theology, and comes to my classes to share Jainism with all of us. Dean Manohar Singh, he is from Humboldt State University, and he's doing a project to ensure that students that are going hungry and not able to study because they do not have enough food to eat. He's working on a project to make sure that a Lungar project, a Seva project, to make sure that people are fed and taken care of, that people's basic needs are met. And we also have Professor Amir Hussain, who works in the Department of Theological Studies, as well as Dr. Mugdha Yeolekar. We are all colleagues in the Department of Theological Studies, and thank you so much for being here today and being with us. And I will leave it to you, John. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. As we said in the introduction, my name is John Sebastian. I'm the Vice President for Mission and Ministry here at Loyola Marymount University, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you all here today. LMU is one of 28 Jesuit universities in the United States, which means we trace our origins and inspirations to St. Ignatius of Loyola, 16th century saint in the Catholic Church. And in listening to some of the remarks and in reading some of the materials that Nirinjan was kind enough to share with me before I got here today, I've been reflecting on the appropriateness, although it may not seem so obvious initially, the appropriateness of hosting this gathering here at a Catholic and Jesuit university. Before his conversion really to a life of faith and devotion and a close following of God, Ignatius of Loyola was a warrior, born to a warrior society. He was raised in a court setting where he was training to become a minor nobleman in 16th century Spain. But his journey was derailed in 1521 when he led a small but fearless band of Spanish warriors against an overwhelmingly large force of French invaders, and there was no hope of winning that particular battle. But inspired by the stories of noble knights that he had read as a young man, Ignatius led his forces to the battlefield and stood against these overwhelming odds, and led fearlessly, although unsuccessfully, and indeed was wounded rather severely when a cannonball crushed his knee. He was actually tended to on the battlefield by the French opponents, who so admired his fearlessness and his strength that they actually tended to him and took care of him and made sure that he was brought to doctors who could help heal his leg. This is a much longer story than that, but during his convalescence, he spent some time, something like 5 weeks, not really able to get out of bed and with very little to do, and only had 2 books in his home at the time. And so he found himself reading extensively a life of Jesus Christ and a life of the saints. And in the course of reading these texts and reflecting on them, he realized that the kind of physical, worldly warfare that he had been brought up for was not as nourishing to him as the idea of being a warrior on behalf of God, on behalf of Jesus, the way that he saw modeled in the lives of the saints. And so during his convalescence, he reflected on what it would mean to be not a soldier of the world, but a soldier for his faith. And that changed the course of his life. He then embarked on a long pilgrimage that led him across Spain and eventually to the Holy Land. He eventually found his way to Rome, where with other companions of his, he founded what we now call the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. Fast forward many years now, and we have 28, as I mentioned, of these schools in the United States, and one of the great markers of our institutions is our commitment to justice, to a faith that does justice. Here at LMU, we have a 3-part mission statement that all of our faculty, staff, and students, I think, at this point can rehearse pretty easily without much prompting. And that's the encouragement of learning, the education of the whole person, and the service of faith through the promotion of justice. So this idea of linking faith and justice is very clearly a part of who we are. This stems from a Catholic conviction about the dignity of all people, of all human people, that draws on a long tradition of Catholic social thought. And it's very much the inspiration of what we do here at LMU. We have what we call a special concern for the poor and the oppressed. We take seriously the biblical injunction in the Hebrew Scriptures to care for the Anawim, the least among us, widows, orphans, and foreigners. And in that regard, I think the commitment to a unified humanity, a humanity that is shared across differences of religion, of culture, of race, of time, of space, that is so common to Guru Gobind Singh's way of thinking about the world, is very consistent with our own values here. So your presence today enriches us. It brings a new aspect and a new dynamism to the work that we do here. It is a great opportunity for us to share the common threads of our different religious beliefs and outlooks. This panel here today has been gathered to share with you some of the perspectives on our common humanity from their own cultural and religious traditions, and so this is a great privilege for me to be here to moderate this session. So without further ado, I will now quiet down and turn the microphone over to our wonderful panelists, who will each speak for about 5 minutes. I think is there a preset order? Should we just go down the table? Why don't we just go down the table?
I do have a presentation, if you can.
Oh. It's more dramatic.
Thank you. Om Shri Jineshwar Bhagavate Namaha. Om Shri Parampara Devaya Namaha. Om Shri Pratyasha Sadguru Devaya Namaha. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Respected brothers and sisters, Jai Jinendra, Sat Shri Kala. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be here and talk about Sikh and Jains, how they work together, how they walk together, and how they develop trust and harmony in the past. So I will talk about, first thing will be a tribute to Sahib Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Then I'll have some illustrations between Jains and Sikhs walking together, how they develop trust and relationship and how they harmonize together. And then I'll talk about the teachings of Sahib Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Jain spiritual leader Shri Srimad Rajchandra Ji. The reason I selected Srimad Rajchandra Ji because just recently, last week only, we had his 150th birth anniversary celebration that happened, and he has written the verse, 142 verse of Shri Atma Siddhi, soul enlightenment, and the spiritual progression of soul and how it goes from impure state to the pure state. So some of the quotation from Sahib Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, I selected that and I compared that what Srimad Ji wrote in the Atma Siddhi Shastra. So hopefully I'll wrap everything in 5 minutes. So sorry. Thank you. Yes. Okay, great. Maybe I'll stand. Is it okay if I stand there so I can flip through fast? Thank you so much. So I think we'll talk about this. So the next one is on the occasion of 350th birth anniversary of Sahib Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, the 10th and the last of the Sikh Gurus, a warrior, a saint, philosopher, and a poet, we offer salutations at your lotus feet, who awakened us from the filth of ignorance to divine knowledge. Koti Koti Pranam. I have just one chart on the history of Jainism and Sikhism. As you see, the Lord Mahavir, who was here almost like 2,500 years back, in 599 to 527 BCE, and after that we had Guru Nanak Ji in the 14th century, and that is our first Sikh Guru, and then we have 10th Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who was in the 1600th century. So I just wanted to show the relationship. Okay. I'll go faster. So maybe I should just skip some of these because it might take some time. We have so much common. I'll just go directly here. The quotation or the teachings of Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, without the power of devotion they cannot realize the Lord, though they perform havens, hold yagnas and offer charities. Without the single-minded absorption in the Lord's name, all the religious rituals are useless. Just basically talking about the devotion to the Guru. If we don't have Guru in our life, what happens? No matter what we do, it all comes down to surrender to the Guru, and Guru is the one who can really help us to attain the liberation. So this is coming from Shri Sahib Ji, and the same thing that comes from Param Guru Padudev talks about Matadarshan Taji, Varte Sadguru Laksh, Lahe Shuddha Samakitate Jema Bhedana Paksh. So here again, how much importance to the Guru is. No matter, whatever we have, all our opinion, all our beliefs, ideology, nothing will work unless we surrender to Guru and we follow what Guru says to do it. So it's kind of similar to the devotion to the Guru is the one that will take us to the ultimate liberation. The next one is importance of divine knowledge. Take the broom of divine knowledge into thy hands and sweep away the filth of ignorance. The knowledge, the pure virtue of the soul is the one really. Once we unfold that knowledge with all the karmic matter, that will we can get rid of our ignorance. So same thing in Atma Siddhi, it says, Koti Varshanu Swapnapan, Jagrat Thata Shamai, Tema Vibhavanadino, Jnana Thata Durday. As a dream of even millions of years subsides at the instant of waking, the delusion prevailing since the infinity disappears with the advent of enlightenment. So again, as soon as when the enlightenment happens, when we have that divine knowledge that we realize, automatically the ignorance will go away. It's the same thing in both cases. The next one is another example of divine knowledge. I'll skip this one. The abandoned delusion. Abandon worldly falsehoods and tobacco and poison. It's coming from Shri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and from Param Padudev it says, Atma Sat Chaitanyamay Sarvabhas Rahit Jethi Keval Pamiye Moksha Pantha Terit. The way one can realize the pure, everlasting consciousness soul, which is devoid of all illusion, constitute the path of liberation. So when we get rid of all the delusions, all the falsehood, then and only then we can realize our pure inner state, which we call the light or the consciousness. This one, humanity as one. Some are Hindus, others are Muslims. Someone is Ilfazi and the other, and Islam Shafi, but he recognized all human race as one. Yeah. And in Atma Siddhi, Param Guru Padudev said the same thing. Jati Vaishano Bhed Nahi, Kahyo Margate Hoy, Sadhete Mukti Lahe, Jema Ema Bhed No Koi. There is no discrimination of caste or attire in the soul, in the said path. Whoever pursues it attains liberation. There is no difference of opinion therein. So same thing, it doesn't matter what kind of caste, what kind of religion it is. If we pursue the real path, we all liberate. We all are pure consciousness. There is a light within us. And the last one, the mighty foe, the pride. Do not take pride in wealth, youth, and caste. And Param Guru Padudev said that मानादिक शत्रु महा निज छंदे नमराय जाता सद्गुरु शरण मा मोक्ष सहज प्रयासे jai. So the mighty force like egotism cannot be destroyed by one's own indulgence. They can be overcome at ease by surrendering to a true Guru. So we all, whatever ego, whatever passions, anger, ego, greed, all that we have, it will not go away by itself, by ourselves. But when we surrender to our Guru, Guru will show us a path which will be very easy to get rid of all the passions and ego, and then we can purify ourselves and ultimately lead to the liberation. Thank you so much.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I don't have a presentation, but I have a few thoughts that I'd like to share as a practicing Sikh. It's true that we are always a student. A true Sikh is always learning and evolving in his philosophy and his practices and all that. But if I reflect as to being born into a Sikh family, how has been my journey? Something that always brings me back to my anchor. The thought is very well summarized in one thing, that is Awwal Allah Noor Upaya Kudrat te sab bande ek noor te sab jag kaun bale kaun mande. It is beyond conception that one can imagine living with this and still seeing so much violence around us. It's really a dual process of human evolution. One is physical, one is spiritual. And the beauty of Guru Gobind Singh's philosophy that he inherited from Guru Nanak is that Sikhi addresses the duality of our existence, the spiritual, the inner, and material, physical, the outer. And if you take that from Guru Nanak's philosophy all the way to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, you will see that saint soldier is nothing more than saint gaining victory over your inner, and soldier extending that victory into the worldly defense of those who have no defense of their own. If you look a little beyond the words in Gurbani, but into the real, our common, normal day practices, our common day communication, you will see the modern word talks about awakening and empowering. Awakening is nothing but making sure we understand who we are really. Ek noor te subject. We have the same jot as many speakers before us. We are nothing but same light, source from the Almighty. That is the awakening. If you have that awakening, you are empowered. If you know that you are no different, that awakening is through prayer, through Naam, through following the true Guru. Now, if you take that awakening from your spiritual inner core onto the world and project it to doing good for the world, making it a better place, it automatically, the connection is very straightforward. And that is, if you have got that awakening, if you have realized, can you project it out of yourself and take it to the world and make it a better place? Answer is yes, through what we did from Guru Nanak Dev Ji onwards. If you look at the progression of political, social political, and then actually military, you will see that the inner awakening from spiritual, from following Guru's teachings, got projected into defending those who Gurus felt were not able to defend themselves. That is empowering. Not militarily, not with arms. It is a combination of telling every one of our human fellows, you are the one. You are as beloved by the Almighty as anyone else. You have it. You are as powerful as anybody else. So go out, defend for yourself, defend for your dignity, fight for it. Not necessarily with arms always, but with thought. If you reflect back, and we'll talk about it, I'm going to be just ending my introduction. That is, if you can combine the awakening from inner soul and translate that into an action that is focused upon imparting power to each individual around you, enabling them to take action for themselves, you will see that the world will be a better place. And that's what Sikhi, in my perspective, has taught me to do. Thank you.
Singh Sahib has given me the perfect segue here. He talked about the inner struggle. Now I'll talk about the outer struggle. And how the platform that Sri Guru Gobind Singh gave us, recognize humanity as one, is the perfect starting point for human rights work in the world today. Okay? Recognizing all humanity as one doesn't mean we work and work and work until everybody looks the same and acts the same and thinks the same. It's just the opposite. It's recognizing that in our differences, this is all created by the one infinite God who created us all, and that this is the play He wanted. That it's not, you should think like me and I should think like you. It's we should share how we think, and at the end of the day realize that we're all part of the same family, and shake hands and go home and sleep that night. This is really, really important in America right now, because it seems like in America, and this is the basis of America and democracy, we've forgotten that. We have one group in the country, and so many, I never believed it until Trump got elected, who will tell you, I'm the only true American, you're screwed, you should either leave or completely agree with me. And then you have people on the other extreme, well, they're just making a mess of the country, they need to behave and learn and act like I do. When really the reality is there is a middle ground, there is an America in between all this, and if we don't get back there, we will lose this wonderful thing called democracy. And human rights will become a secondary issue, and that's something we can't afford. Guru Gobind Singh taught us, first of all, to have courage. Taught us that if you believe in God and you give your faith and trust in God, you have to give up your fear. Because you've given it to God, God is supposed to take care of it, Guru is supposed to take care of it, and if you continue to fear at that point, then you're contradicting yourself. The platform of Sikhi, when it comes to interfaith and interrelationships in the community, is priceless. Why? Because we don't believe we have a monopoly on God. We don't believe it's my way or the highway. We don't believe that if you don't believe as I may tolerate you, but I never accept or respect you, because ultimately my way is superior. The fact that Guru Gobind Singh, Guru Nanak Dev, through Guru Gobind Singh, has taught us to see the light and the love and the God in every single being on this planet, orders us to be a natural convener and peacemaker. It really does. It doesn't say that we go and try and be the world's policeman. That's not what it's about. It says that we need to go out and remind everybody of the common thread of humanity and of infinite light that goes through all of us. And this applies to humanists. Do everybody know what humanists are now? Humanists are atheists. That's the buzzword for atheism now. And just because someone doesn't recognize, deny, or include God in his life doesn't mean we exclude him from ours. So they still have the same thread. In our mind, they're still created by the same God, and they need to be part of the process. So as Sikhs, we don't evangelize, which is perfect. That means we're not out trying to convert anybody while we're trying to help them with their issues. And Sikhs believe that all the different ways of expression are important. So what does this mean? This means as a human rights activist, when I go out to a community and talk to them, I have common ground with them already. And this is what Guru Gobind Singh taught us. He taught us, you cannot hate your enemy. You have to love your enemy and love those who obstruct and love those that are making life difficult. You can dislike what they're doing and try to stop it if it's so unjust and it cries out so loud. But for you to disregard another person or think them less is the ultimate sin for a Khalsa. So I'm especially glad to see a handful of students still here. These are the people, we spend a lot of time in the Sikh community talking to each other about things we deeply understand, and sometimes it may be hard to pick up in the middle of the conversation for some of the people that aren't used to it. So the students that are still here, I hope, I congratulate you. We lost a few here and there, we gained a few here and there. But what you're doing to learn and understand different communities is priceless in this day and age. There is no other way to build peace on this planet. It may be for a while to see it before we see it, but it's just interfaith activism, it's just interfaith and intercommunity understanding that will eventually, it is planting the seeds of peace now, and it will eventually result in peace. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nirinjan Kaur, for inviting me to this very relevant conversation today. Thank you to students, as mentioned by earlier speaker, who are here to really learn about the others and understand humanity as one. And special thanks to 2 or 4 little kids who are sitting here. It's not so easy, even with those laddus and cookies, these people are just talking, they're never stopping. So special thanks to you. As a cultural anthropologist, I see the legacy of Guru Gobind Singh Ji from 2 vantage points. His legacy for Punjabi Sikh communities and his legacy for the entire humanity. For the Sikhs, he provided a clear vision for integrating the community in times of crisis. He aimed at restoring self-esteem of the community through introduction of Khalsa. I think his vision of active engagement with the opponent was crucial for the formation and unity of the Sikh community at the time. However, while encouraging his fellow Sikhs in active engagement, he also insisted on the moral use of warfare and thereby promoted the ideal of non-violence as a force of resilience and combating and controlling the violence against humanity. As far as Guru Gobind Singh Ji's legacy for the entire humanity is concerned, I think it is the idea about supporting the cause of justice and social justice under all circumstances. The theme of supporting the cause of social justice is evident in the work of Guru Gobind Singh Ji and more in his father's work as well. The 9th Guru of Sikhism, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, supported Kashmiri Pandits. The story goes that he was tortured to death for supporting the freedom of Hindu Pandits. One might be surmised about Guru Tegh Bahadur's support and loss of his life in supporting Hindus. As I understand, his support was also because of his understanding of Sikhism, which is that Hindus are critiqued by Sikhs for the division of society, for caste system, and society based on graded social hierarchy. However, for Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, supporting Hindus was not in disagreement of his philosophy about Sikhism. Guru's support was for the cause of practice of religious freedom, which he insisted must be for everyone, including his opponents. He supported these Kashmiri Hindus to pursue the issue of justice. So what we learn from example of Guru Gobind Singh and his father is the importance of idea of moral discernment. From the story that we just reiterated here, we come to the idea that enmity is with the system, not with the people who are part of it. There is so much polarization in contemporary world, and this polarization in a local context works in such a way that when a group is defined as its enemy, then everything about that group is vilified. What we can draw from the work of these gurus of Sikhism are two intellectual virtues: the idea of difference and the idea of interconnectedness. On the one hand, in this essentially diverse setting, we need to discern and encounter with the other. However, we should not aim at engaging with the other on the principle of sameness or likeness. We should acknowledge the grounds of difference and then have a vision of interconnectedness and oneness of humanity. Thank you.
Good evening, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I need that feedback, it's late for me too. Thanks to Dr. Nirinjan and Khalsa for hosting this, and thanks to Consul General Ashok, for sponsoring this. I was born in Lahore. I'm young enough that it was Lahore in Pakistan. 25 years before I was born, my teacher, Wilfred Campbell Smith in Peshawar, quoted from Wilfred. I was fortunate to be in graduate school with Peshawar, so it's an interesting connection, a reconnection here. My teacher, Wilfred Campbell Smith, in 1940 came to Lahore in India. He came to India in 1940 because that was the best place to study Islam. Because in 1940, before partition, India was the country with the most Muslims. He stayed in Lahore from 1940 to 1946, left in 46, came back in 48. We all know what happened in the intervening year, in 47. The violence, the murders of Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims. For Wilfred, I think that was a defining moment for him, coming back and literally being in Lahore, still in ruins from partition. And seeing the violence that religious people can do at each other when they don't recognize their common humanity. And for Wilfred, there was always that morality that Professor Yeolekar spoke of. That's why I love being here in this Jesuit school. Dr. Sebastian spoke about our mission statement, the service of faith and the promotion of justice. For Wilfred, it was very simple. There's one faith because there's one God. There's no Hindu faith, Sikh faith, Muslim faith. It's like saying Muslim God, Hindu God, Sikh God. There's one God. There's one faith. We have different traditions. We're very clearly different in the ways we approach that one God. Very clearly the different rituals we do. But if we believe that there's one God, if we believe that we have obligations to that one God, that we have obligations to each other. And I think that's crucial. That's why I feel so welcome here at a Catholic Jesuit university. We have a number of Muslim students. We just did our Jummah prayer here, and it was really quite remarkable where the person leading the Jummah prayer quoted a verse from the Quran that I was actually going to use here. It's the verse, one of the verses that talks about the creation of Satan. God creates lots of things in the Quran before God creates human beings. God creates the angels, God creates the jinn, then God creates the human being. And Iblis, the devil, says when God has created the human being, literally the words out of his mouth are, I am better than he. You created me out of fire, you created him out of clay. And one of my teachers always reminded me, remember, whenever you say that phrase, I am better than he, remember who you're quoting. You're quoting Satan. I am better than you. Created me out of fire. You created him out of clay. Everyone, of course, knows that fire is better than clay. It's just the ridiculousness there when we don't see our common humanity. That, again, is the appeal for me being here. And again, it's these funny sorts of coincidences, like late last night, I sent in to Dr. Sebastian my application to go on a Jesuit immersion trip to Nicaragua. And I quoted, my favorite verses from the Gospel, the parable of the sheep and the goats, Matthew 25, verses 31 to 46. I'm not going to quote that whole parable, but it's basically Jesus talking about, how do you, using gendered language, how do you sit at the right hand of the Father? How do you get invitation to this sort of, banquet in heaven? It's very simple. Did you feed the hungry? Did you clothe the naked? Did you visit those who were sick? Did you visit those who were in prison? That speaks to me. This idea that, do we love God? Do we love our neighbor? That's what the Gurus taught us. That's what the Gospels taught us. That's what the religious traditions teach us. The danger is when we don't live that out, when we don't recognize that common humanity, when we dissolve into the violence that Nirinjan was talking about here. We literally see that violence in this country. And as someone who comes from a place where you've seen the effects of religious violence, we can't let that happen here. And the way to do that is precisely as we're doing it here, to recognize through the teachings, not just of Guru Gobind Singh, but the other gurus, starting with Guru Nanak, the commonality of humanity. One God, one humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our panelists for your reflections and your insights. We have some time for conversation still, but not to put them too much on the spot, but since you were mentioned already, there are students in the back, we wanted to take a moment to invite you, since you have been so diligently sitting there and taking this all in today, to ask any questions or offer any observations that you may have for our panelists here today. Please. And please tell us your name.
My name is Jack. I'm a junior. I'm studying civil engineering here, and I'm in Dr. Khalsa's class on Sikhism. So my question, I guess, is... thanks. Is it on? Okay. My question is, so with this belief of the Khalsa that all humans are on equal standing, I'm curious what you all think is the benefit of celebrating one human, such as Guru Gobind Singh. He is important in the history of Sikhism, but just what's your perspective on the benefit of celebrating a single person?
Want me to start?
I can answer that. We're not celebrating one individual. Guru Gobind Singh is the concept, if you would, the principle, the foundation, which is not actually even just in physical manifestation of his body or existence. The philosophy has been even before Guru Nanak, the known founder of Sikhi. Even Kabir, I was hearing in the morning session that Kabirji's Gurbani and his philosophy precedes Sikhi philosophy. So we are actually not celebrating one individual. The celebration here is one humanity. Humanity precedes everything else in terms of an individual existence. So not, we just found an excuse or an occasion to celebrate something much bigger than our individual existence. That is a fundamental question. That's a beautiful question. And the answer would be, yes, this is the time to celebrate humanity, and that's what exactly we are doing.
Each of our 10 Sikh gurus before Sri Guru Granth Sahib, they all contributed different aspects of what has built the Sikh community it has today. We especially celebrate often Guru Gobind Singh because he kind of put the icing on the cake. He gave us the form, he gave us the social justice, even though many Sikhs were responsible, or many gurus were social justice oriented and worked to heal the sick and worked to find justice in the world. It was Guru Gobind Singh that kind of, if you'll excuse the term, made it an order of the Khalsa. That it's not a question anymore. Even the 5 articles of faith, the 5 kakas, I'm sure Dr. Khalsa has gone over this in class. We wear these because we have made a commitment, and to remind us of our commitment every day. It's like this gold ring on my finger, right? It's a commitment. When I look at it, I have to remember that I'm married, and I appreciate it, and I don't have to appreciate it, but I really appreciate it. And when other people see it, and if I was in a bar flirting someplace, they would say, well, you need to act married, okay? So when we have the kirpan, we have the kata, we have the kesh, the kanga, the kacheras, these are all things that we put on and remind us every day that this is the finalized form of Sikhi that Guru Gobind Singh gave us. And that's one reason why we get that extra celebration, but this is the 350th birth celebration of Sri Guru Gobind Singh. So, you know, we have celebrations of Guru Nanak Dev, we have, you know, all that too. One thing that people tend to do in spirituality, and you talk about oneness, is get very abstract and not drill down on form so much. That God is formless, you know, if you're really into God, you're completely formless, okay? Well, that works when you leave your body, but it's not so good when you're here. You have to identify yourself and launch from a certain platform. So that is why it is so important to us as Sikhs who participate in the world. We're not sadhus, we're not renunciates. So we're in this world, and we have these reminders that Guru Gobind Singh gave us every single day of our life to remember of our higher self and our commitment.
In response to your very profound question, I would say that I would like to quote one of my favorite Catholic theologians, Father Michael Himes, who, when he talks about sacraments, and he says that everything is inherently sacramental for Catholic theology. But then the 7 moments in the life of a Catholic person are these extra moments that you take out to just recognize. So it's like our birthdays. We love the person, the family member every single day, but it's on their birthday that we go and make a special effort to tell them we love you extra. Just like that. So instead of celebration, or in addition to celebration, I think we are here to commemorate. We are here to remember this message of humanity collectively and evolve the message in the context of the times we are in. Thank you.
I think I'll give the perspective. Also, you know, all the souls are equal, they all are pure. So, for example, in Jainism, all the liberated soul, when the souls are liberated, there is no name given to that. Namo Siddhanam. Siddha means those who are liberated. We don't call them Mahavir or Parshvanath or whatever names was given to them when they were in the body form. Right? So 24th Tirthankar Bhagwan was called Mahavir. But when he got liberated, he became Siddha Bhagwan. So when we bow down to gods, say just Namo Siddhanam, all liberated soul, we bow down. And before they liberate, there is another state, they are in still human form. But they have not gotten rid of all their karmas. They have gotten rid of 4 destructive karmas, but the 4 non-destructive karmas are still there, which are associated with the body. But they are called Arihanta. All the names, those who are in the body form, but they have gotten rid of the destructive karma, they are all called Arihanta. So Namo Arihantanam. There is no name given to any particular name that, you know, in the body form. So in reality, they all are equal. They are all in the pure form, but as we said that, you know, because they are the Nam Karma, because of that they have their body form and shape, and they come, they recognize. And then we want to give their due respect because they have given something to us, like Lord Mahavir, Lord Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and all that thing. So we want to recognize, but yet they are pure light, they are pure consciousness, they all are Shuddhatma, they all are equal.
Before I open it to 1 or 2 other questions from the audience in general, any other students want to chime in?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I can speak loud. You know, Very interesting presentations. Thank you all for enlightening us with all the information. And we talk about humanity, one God, one humanity, and all of that sounds good in this classroom environment. But then you look on the TV and you see all this violence, all these murders, all the killing, all the hatred going on all over USA. And how can we get the message to those people around the USA and in the world to stay away from the violence and start believing in one humanity and one God?
Get in the streets and start working. That's what it takes.
No, and I think we're in this privileged place in this university to be able to make those kinds of connections. So whenever I teach my Islam in America classes, I always talk about Balbir Singh Sodhi. My American students don't know who he is. You all, of course, should know who he is because on September the 15th, 2001, first person killed in a hate crime after 9/11 was Balbir Singh Sodhi, who'd come here actually to Los Angeles, then went to San Francisco, got some money, became a gas station owner in Mesa, Arizona, and was shot by someone who thought he looked like, one of them, the terrorists, even though the terrorists were sort of clean shaven, you were already confusing the Taliban with Sikhs. And so what's been really interesting in the last, weird to think 16 years since 9/11, has been the reaction of the Sikh community. To not say, because the simple reaction would be to say, why are you attacking us? We're not Muslims, we had nothing to do with 9/11. But that's not a Sikh response. The Sikh response is you shouldn't be attacking anyone. And to stand up there, I think that's been profound for me, and I think it's precisely having those kinds of examples of people, who do stand for justice, who don't just say, well, let me throw another community under the bus, and it's not me, it's them, they're the bad folks. To challenge that, I think, is really crucial, and that's what we do here, is to try and teach our students, about those examples.
I think you'd be surprised to find out exactly how much you can do. A lot of people sit at home with what's going on today and say, boy, someone should really do something about this. But the person that needs to do something about this is us, is everybody. Now, I can give you my example. I've been on the Human Rights Commission for the City of Los Angeles for 15 years now. I was president for 6. I was responsible for the civil and human rights for 4 million people. You know where this started? Right after 9/11, Kirtan Singh was supposed to go to a radio town hall meeting, and he couldn't make it, and he asked me to go instead. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't plan for this even, but I knew something needed to be done, and that's all it takes. And you can start just by going to groups, walking down the street and talking to people. You can do so many things that you'd be surprised how much of an effect it can have.
I'll just respond with, he already stole my thunder, by the way.
Sorry.
That's fine.
You got me before that.
Actually, I share what he just mentioned, and that is one of the two words I was going to just summarize so that everyone gets a chance. The other thing I am going to ask you all, if you believe that you follow a particular way of reaching your faith, whether you're a Sikh or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian, the answer to your question is, don't just pray, live your prayer. Live it every single day, and the world will be a better place. Tear down your barriers among your human selves. See everybody, see deeper, that they are just like you. Manas ki jaat se dahe kya pehchan. Your prayers, every prayer, whether it is Quran or Guru Granth or Bible, every prayer says the same exact thing. Just live it rather than just pray. It'll be a better place soon.
So you asked about instruction within classroom. I think those walls are not real. Classroom and outside, these are all interconnected. And so we are sowing seeds for future. And the trees that are going to grow in years are going to be wonderfully blossoming trees. And I'm sure about that with this work. So thank you.
go this side. I was just quite Tom? Yes. Yeah. I love your questions. Very, very important. And I thought I'll pitch in a couple of thoughts with the permission of the panel. And it's a very important question because normally Sikhs celebrating a protagonist from within their own world, it's understandable as any other community would. But as I mentioned earlier in the day that Guru Gobind is one protagonist from entire human history who celebrated excellence of the humankind, or irrespective of where they came from. That's one protagonist like none other. It becomes important to mark by way of any excuse, be it a centenary, birth anniversary, death anniversary, to be reminded, to relearn about them, that there have been people centuries ago. One example I hear, I hear there's a lot of fake media. I think in India, the fake media has spread the word that somebody called Donald Trump won the election. So, jokes apart, the idea of right to, I think this is the First Amendment, the right to bear arms. Second Amendment. So, I'm not sworn, I'm not supposed to know the American Constitution, so I hope you'll forgive me for that. But the Second Amendment, thank you for the correction. It's so important to the American people. Do you know that in India, the Sikhs are the only people who can actually carry a sword in an aircraft? That's Guru Gobind Singh. That's one protagonist who, we know of so many protagonists. And now Canada has started. In internal travel within Canada, Sikhs will be able to carry swords, a small sword. Indian Constitution allows for Sikhs to carry the small sword anywhere in all the security areas. Talk of right to bear arms. We know of martyrs of people who've given their life, their property for protection or saving their own interests, or for their own interests. Guru Gobind Singh is one protagonist who challenged his father, who would mention that, well, you know, when the Hindu delegation came and they said, we need your help. And at age 9, he asked his father that as he walked in, I hear silence like I've never heard before. What is different today? And there are thousands of people sitting in the court of the 9th Guru. He asked us very, very stunning questions. This silence is different. And eventually, his father tells that the head of a great soul is needed. And 9-year-old Guru Gobind Rai tells his father, but whose head is greater than yours? So that's something that is so stunning. No compromise with the evil, if you may. Accepting diversity. I was it was in Italy 2 years ago. Lastly, just half a minute more. 2 years ago, when they were commemorating the Great War and the Sikh contribution in liberation of Europe and anti-fascist endeavors in the First Grand War, the journalist from Rome, he asked Nello Delgato, he asked me that in Islam or other faiths, in Christianity, there's the idea of martyr. Sikhs have also the idea of shaheed. How is it different? So I told what the idea of Gursikh is, that for others it may be that they are going to heaven, but the Sikhs know this world is heaven. So it's Guru Gobind Singh's idea, his education, that this world is it. Now you've got telescopes. You can see this is the heaven that hangs up there and nowhere else, billions and billions of light years. And if we cannot behave and respect diversity, languages, races, that's one protagonist. It's a very fascinating question, why? And it's very relevant. Why are we all gathering to commemorate 350th and why? I mean, who's got time to do, etc. reasons. very, I think that's, for me, the question of the day. And I'm sorry I took maybe some extra time.
But all right, thank you. I fear that time presses on, and we are about out of it for this particular panel, but I'm grateful for your presence here and for joining us today. Let's thank our panelists one final time. Thank you.